Yeah, it's 7 o'clock right now on the button.
Ready, Dave?
Give me 1 second to turn you on live.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. All right. Good evening, Town of Dayton. Welcome to the Town of Dayton Planning Board regular meeting and public hearing this Wednesday, May 20th, 2026. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And as a reminder, this is a public meeting being video and audio recorded for cable broadcast. The next meeting will be here, June 3rd, 2026, another Wednesday, 7 p.m. And please note that we will be beginning our summer session. And what that means is we have one meeting a month. It would be our normal meeting schedule. It'll be June through September, right? In October we commence.
September, yes.
Through September, and in October we go back to two meetings a month, first and third. Excuse me. First item on the agenda is the public hearing for the Trinity Solar LLC, 1205 Briggs Street, map 8, lot 90, special permit and site plan review. Somebody please make a motion to open that public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we have already heard from the applicant. We've had some concerns from an abutter present this evening. So I think at this point, I don't know if you're with Trinity?
I am,
You're with Trinity.
yes.
I don't know if you wanted to address their concerns or if you wanted to present changes. 'Cause I can swing to you first, and then we can have her, or,
I just assume let the abutters get started, and then we can try and answer all the questions. As far as I'm
Okay.
concerned, the board only had 2 questions, which we've resolved here on the plan.
right.
Other than that, it's their show.
Okay, all right. So if you could please, maybe, I'm sorry?
No problem.
There's no podium. I mean, you feel free to stay seated. You can stand if you'd like. You have to state your name, your address, and then if you could please state your concerns. I know we got your letter, but I would really like you to take the opportunity to present your concerns verbally so that they can hear and we can step through them and we'll work from there. Sound good?
Okay, Mark Cornell, 1193 Briggs Street, Dayton.
Thank you very much.
So we did send in our email concerns because we were at the last meeting, and we were told that we weren't going to have the opportunity to voice our concerns because the applicant wasn't here.
Right, that's
So we did.
that's normal.
We did send in an extensive list of concerns. I didn't realize I was going to have to read them now since we...
You don't have to read them. If you could summarize. I'd rather you didn't read 6 pages while we listened.
You want me to take over?
Sure.
And then we can add to it. So the first one was, I think it was already partially addressed with the, Robin Cornell, 1193.
Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. So the first one was already partially addressed with the setback, shown with being 100 feet. He did have some concerns with the fact that the property owner was one of the ones that was holding the measurement tape, and we did suggest that that be a GPS certified setback, considering the post margin there.
Okay. You want this to address these one at a time? Might be easier.
Okay,
Okay. So is it, that's that entirely?
no.
Okay.
I think that he meant like on that.
So
On that piece?
setback.
I
Yeah.
think it'd be, if there's a bunch of them, let's try and chip away at them one at a time so we don't get lost in the weeds.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think if you
that's
go through and talk about a bunch of things, we
Right.
go back.
No, that
I'm
makes
writing them
total
down, but
sense.
if you could-
Okay, yep.
So we can have an open dialogue here.
So the setback, we request that that be as GPS certified.
Okay.
This one,
When you say setback, you mean buffer.
the buffer
Okay.
from the front building, the building in front. That was 99.6.
That is, so you say setback, what you mean is 100 feet from, let me see, I'll read you the bylaw.
From the budding dwellings.
Dwelling development in all events shall be at least 100 feet from any dwelling on another parcel. So originally this came through at 99.6.
Yeah.
Drawing was updated, it says minimum 100. Do you have an actual measurement on that?
They're asking us to move something 6 inches. Okay.
No, that's not what I asked.
That's
Do,
all right.
do you have an actual measurement?
So, the drawing is drawn to scale, everything else is on there.
Yep.
They did that to reflect what the board was asking for.
Got it.
I'm sure that is drawn to scale, it's an engineered certified copy, you know, we didn't make that in our office, we had
Okay.
local engineers come and perform this work.
Okay. So we don't require that level of detail with GPS for this kind of thing. We don't normally, for small scale, large scale is a very different beast. For small scale, we don't require typically that level of rigor for placement as long as they're able to show that they meet the backyard, front yard, side yard, and also setback from residences on, or from dwellings on other abutting plots. Which
Is it dwellings or is it buildings?
it says, not, gotta get the words, I think you might be right.
According to my notes.
Accessory structures, yeah,
Right.
structures.
Dwellings and structures.
Dwellings and structures of 100 feet. So, I mean, if it's a certified drawing, that is adequate for what we're doing here. We don't go out there and measure it ourselves. If there are concerns, so what's gonna wind up happening is we decide this based on what we're given, the information we're given, and what is drawn here. When this goes into the construction phase, that leaves this group and goes to the building commissioner, right? So that is, there are concerns about things that are happening during construction, which some of these things you mentioned are construction phase concerns. That's where a lot of that gets addressed. And at the same time, in order to cover the abutter concerns, what we like to do is to beef up our decision that says, hey, these are going to be conditions of approval or conditions of the approval, like hours of construction. And if there are specific items like this, that can be listed in there. So he's fulfilled what he needs based on his drawing. It's 54 feet from the property line, 100 feet minimum to the building on the abutting lot. Are you in that abutting lot? Excuse me.
Yes, both of them.
Okay.
So that leads to our second question, with like clarification of the dwelling orientation
Right.
and the applicable yard setbacks. According to the plan, it says that it should be 55
55 feet.
feet from setback, and it's 54 currently with the new plan. Because that, again, considering the dwelling orientation.
Minimum front setback is 55 feet.
Correct.
Where's front? I thought front
That is the front.
was the right of way.
The front's Brick Street.
The front is Briggs Street, so that solar system is in the front.
The solar system is between the street and his house, so it's in the front yard.
I thought this is the right of way? Right here. Okay,
There's a
I was
12-foot right of way,
orienting
and then
myself
there's a
incorrectly
40.
on this.
20 foot.
Right, and that's why we asked for clarification on the orientation. Because according to the bylaws, this system's in the front yard.
So that driveway shown there connects out to Briggs Street.
Correct. It's
No.
not a driveway, it's a right of way.
It's a right of way. It says driveway here, okay.
Well,
Gotcha.
with that being said, I believe the front yard would actually be Middle Street, because my frontage is 20 feet on Middle Street.
Where's Middle Street on this? Way out there?
On the other side.
Like the north side of the plane?
The
the other side of the
address
river.
of the structure is Briggs Street, and that should,
That's
according to
Briggs.
the bylaws, that is.
Oh, Middle's way
considered
over.
front- front
Oh, I got it
yard
now.
System.
Yeah, I just have to zoom out more.
If he wants to put it 55 feet from Middle Street, I've got no problem with that.
So what is the declared frontage on this lot? I guess that's the question, right? Clearly, right? You're saying you have frontage on Middle, but your access is actually on Briggs.
Correct.
There's zero frontage on Briggs, that's, part of the challenge here.
Which was addressed when I built the house and got the original permit for the house and all of those, this exactly kind of thing.
Well, I mean, it's a matter of moving it 1 foot.
Mhm.
right?
Sure. If these things kind of carry on, we're talking about, moving something 6 inches or moving something a foot, maybe we can just address that in the orders of conditions, just to try and, move the thing along a little bit over here and kind of get through it. These are minor details over here. We've gone through a couple of meetings with the folks. And
Okay.
eventually we'd like to try and,
So the question asked, is that the proper orientation of what you intend on doing? As shown on the drawing?
of the solar panels?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know it's drawn, but I'm asking it out loud.
Yes.
Okay, so we can add order conditions that you'll move that 1 foot to the northeast, say if you're at 55 feet. I don't think you intend on moving it over to 55 feet from Middle Street,
55 feet?
No, because that says move it 1 foot.
1 foot, so that's 55 feet.
What's the 55 feet from?
Minimum front setback.
From the street? Don't you measure from the center of the street?
From the property line.
I believe setback is measured in the front from the center of the street.
It's from the middle of the street.
Middle of the street is setback.
Yeah.
So then it would be, that's
That's not.
So
minimum,
I'm way over that.
minimum side yard. If your minimum side yard is 15 feet, minimum rear yard is 15 feet.
Move it a foot.
So the concern is, quite honestly.
It's just an unusual plot orientation. So to me, I'm reading this as a side yard, and the side yard is only 15 feet, 1.5.
But it is not, it is in our front yard and it is in their front yard according to the bylaws. So it's in our side front yard, but we can see it from our street.
We can see it from in our
We can see it
house.
from the street.
I don't think anybody's gonna argue. Nobody's arguing 1 foot. Okay, next.
So our concern next is about the placement. I know that you all received the letter, so we won't go through that in detail, but I will just read my husband's notes here, which basically, this is even though it's on paper, a small, scale system, from a neighborhood's perspective, this is a very large scale system. It's 60 panels, it's 12 feet in height, and it is 62 feet in length.
Mm-hmm.
Visible from the public roadway, our front lawn, our front house, inside our house, because of the clearing that was done to prepare for this. So, our question is really, is this compatible with the residential character of the neighborhood? Given the proximity to the abutting homes, the animals next
Mhm.
door, the horses next door, the neighboring residential properties. Again, we built our house way back in the woods and nobody even knew that there was a neighbor, and now
Mhm.
it's completely clear and we're gonna have visibility to a very large, 12-foot high, 62 feet long structure.
So,
So
okay.
that is our main concern here.
So-
And our property is elevated, so
Mhm.
even at 12 feet, even if there was fencing or screening, we would still be looking down onto the solar panels from
Mhm.
inside of our house.
Okay. Got it. Okay, thank you. So, I guess I have a question for the applicant, or I guess you can answer on his behalf. Can you describe what's been going on with clearing? Because that's a concern, 'cause you're not supposed to be doing excessive clearing for doing something like this.
Did not do any clearing for that. My house was built 40 years ago.
Okay.
I built my house myself.
Mhm.
I cleared the property myself. I cleared it all the way to that north property line. In fact, if you go to the north property line, between our two properties, you'll see very large boulders that I had put in place on the property line back when I had it cleared out that far.
Okay.
Of course, over 40 years, things change. And I got involved in boating. I didn't spend much time around the house. I paid somebody to cut the lawn, not necessarily the most expensive guy who was going to make sure that the woods didn't grow in, but the woods kind of grew in over the years. Now that I'm retired, I've reclaimed my yard to the north property line where those boulders were, back to where I used to be. Actually, back then when I used to look out my back windows, I used to see nothing but woods. Now I see a raised house out there. 20 years later, after I built my house, what are you gonna do? Somebody builds a house, they build a house, it's not my property. Now I look out my front window, I see farm equipment spewed across the place as the guys opened up a farm, it's got the horses going. There's a nice outhouse that I get to look at out my big beautiful windows. But that's his yard, he does what he does. I knew the barn was there when I built my house. Life goes on, good neighbors are good neighbors.
Okay, so I guess my follow-up question is, would you be able to do some kind of screening to the abutting property here.
There's actually a section of woods between the line and their driveway that hasn't been touched, other than, one big tree that they had cut down while I was clearing some of my stuff. I had a tree cut down with the gentleman that was cutting trees for me. So I don't really understand the screening. There's actually a stretch of woods right between the two houses. I mean,
Nobody's screaming.
might be a little visible in the winter time more so than the summer, but it's growing in pretty nice. My other concern is I heard about the access problems. Now that I've opened up the 20-foot common way, I didn't quite open it all the way to the driveway, but if we're really concerned about access and emergency access, their properties actually have the same problem my property has. There's a choke point getting into their house. So, for
We
turnaround
haven't gotten to that
emergencies,
part yet,
if
respectfully.
there's any issues.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
handle these one at a time. So I guess I agree with them about the screening part and with the elevation. So what happens for large scale, this is not applicable here necessarily, is there are screening requirements. There are not screening requirements specifically called out. But because we're talking the west, we're not talking the south, I think it'd be appropriate to have a condition of approval that there should be some screening solution between you and them that would be in this easement area, so that it would minimize what they're seeing.
In the easement area.
Well, adjacent to.
We're requesting it, since we own his front yard and side yard, that we're screened to both areas, because that has been since cleared in September and
What are you talking
October. I have a visual
think
here, if
that
that's helpful.
Like,
You need to look at they have all that screening in their yards. I mean, it's all on their property line.
Yeah, because you cut down all the trees on your property.
Okay. So I think we're gonna request some form of screening between them, because I think that'd be appropriate. Next.
Can we request that those be mature trees, considering the size and height of this? and-
We don't typically require that for large scale. I have to look up what we do for large scale. We don't typically require that. I'm just saying, we don't even do it for large scale, mature trees.
In the bylaws, that's what I did read.
For large scale. Where did you see that for?
I don't have it handy, but I can certainly. find
Right, I mean, it says it specifically, I think you were talking about 4659, which it talks about buffers and natural buffers and all of this.
Mhm.
That's all for large scale.
Again, just evaluating the neighborhood impacts of
Right.
a system this size,
Mm-hmm.
I would respectfully request something to hide a 12-foot high structure that's visible from the roadway inside our house and along our driveway and it from our front yard.
Okay.
Can I just ask, what is, the screen height? Most neighborhoods have a fence, unless it's a commercial fence, which is 8 feet, most fences are 6 feet. So what would you have them do? The screening? Put a 6-foot high fence in front of a 12-foot high structure?
You guys have any comments?
Most people do. Oh, go ahead.
Fence on a boom,
What is it?
fence on a burn.
Fence on the berm.
I don't want to do that again. That's-
Well, the other middle street is that.
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's a very different situation. Very
I mean,
large area.
abrevieties will grow until
Until they block the pens.
you chop the top off and get the desired height. If you get green giants, then deers are not supposed to eat. But
If
I
we're
don't know.
meeting the requirements for the installation by the laws, what do we need to?
It's part of the language in the special permit section.
It's supposed to meet the,
Hang on one second.
When I drive through town and I see solar panels.
Well, this is right. I understand, but this is affecting an abutter and affecting the. I want to find it. I want to just go by memory. In a special permit section, there is some liberty. 5300. Hang on, it's going the wrong way, so I couldn't find it.
The benefit to the town that neighborhood outweighs the adverse effects of the proposed use, taking into account the characteristics of the site and the proposal in relation to that site. 5320.
5320, yeah, there it is, thank you. So, I mean, there's language built into the special permit section specifically talking about the nature and characteristics of the neighborhood this is being installed in. That's where there is some, I want to call it fluff area. Now, I'm not asking you to put 25-foot abrevieties in front of your panels, because that's going to adversely affect the point of putting the panels in. But I'm asking there to be a middle ground.
And I'm asking you to just take into consideration the
Yeah.
whole property and the whole community. Please come out, take a look at the property, stand on my property, see the property that I have to look at, see everything that I'm seeing in the neighborhood. It is the community. Look at the other houses in the neighborhood, go down the street, look at the houses to the left, to the right, see how the neighborhood looks. What I'm doing is not going to affect the neighborhood. In fact, I think a big tall fence is going to be more intrusive.
I agree with that, because that was done someplace else in town, and I think it's horrendous.
I'd appreciate a vision would be.
Okay, so I think we gotta talk through this. All right, screening is concerned, got it. Next.
Thank you. And then, again, I know that the property owner had brought up the access constraints regarding the quota, and also how there was previous approval for this.
So I think what you said, and jump in here if I'm not capturing what your concerns are. You were concerned during construction. You were concerned during any maintenance periods. And I think that's on both situations. So what we historically have done when people are concerned with construction vehicles and access and people coming to and fro during the construction phase, people coming to and fro during operations, we put that as a condition of approval, where in that will wind up with the building commissioner's office. They can also enforce that kind of thing once, if they give them a building permit, that they are restricted on, construction vehicles, access, what hours they can access, where they can park their vehicles. I mean, what's the intent for construction? Just give us an idea of what you intend on doing.
So this is these are helical piles that are drilled into the soil,
Okay,
right? So
Yep.
we're not disturbing any ground. When they come in there with a machine that can just auger these helical piles into the ground, there's a series of poles that goes up. This is a steel frame structure that gets bolted together
so
with assembly line panels that get.
you're not doing a big crane or anything. You're not doing anything like that. Okay, so
No footings.
None of those things. Helical
Right.
piles.
So what kind of a construction footprint do you anticipate?
Bigger than the actual site.
No,
I mean, bigger.
you're
than
you're bringing in machinery. You're bringing in stuff.
hmm
So I think the concern is when you're doing all this, what does that look like?
So-
Because they have to share this
So
right
the,
away.
the average machine that we use for that is something the equivalent of a ditch witch or a medium-sized bobcat,
It's like a
as
Bobcat.
opposed to a 10-ton excavator or something that would, have some kind of reasonable limitations. But this is a medium-sized bobcat or, like I said, a ditch witch. This is a walk-behind unit. The helical
Okay.
piles themselves are about 4 inches around
Mhm.
and 4 feet long.
Yeah, I'm less concerned about the materials. I'm more concerned about how you're putting all that stuff on the property. That's going to require you to bring in machinery,
Well,
whatever.
I mean,
and all that.
these pieces of assembly are small enough that they can be hand carried with guys. You don't need
Okay.
any cranes for this kind of
Right.
business here.
And the equipment's
It's compact.
landscape
Yeah.
trailer on the larger
Would
side,
be
but
anything
not.
larger than they used to run a farm.
Correct. Right.
So could these things, when you bring these things onto the property, you're bringing them on with a trailer, all these pieces of equipment.
Sure.
So I presume you're not going to block access anywhere west here. You're planning on sticking to your own driveway.
Yeah, I believe he's got enough room on his property to travel down the driveway,
Just- I
park
just-
on his lot.
again, I just wanna
work
make sure-
completely out of
Okay.
there and can keep the construction vehicles off of
Okay.
the right of way.
So that's
That's not a problem.
so that's the construction phase, and it seems like a very small footprint.
Mhm.
Obviously, you're accessing and you're coming in, you're going out.
Yeah.
But when you're working in that area. You're digging a ditch for power, obviously, but you're keeping everything on that property, and things are small footprint. That's construction. What about maintenance phase? What kind of maintenance?
They're solar panels.
They're solar
They don't-
panels.
They don't really require much maintenance.
Okay.
They really don't. They're a 20-year product. You set it and forget it. All of the disconnects and everything else is on the house side of things. They're
Okay.
easily accessible.
Yeah.
It's a non-combustible structure. There's nothing to do.
Utility van, utility body truck at most, I would think.
Yeah, so we have, we have.
The access was adequate to build the house in the first place and maintain it for 40 years.
Okay.
And I've had things in and out, lumber trucks and other trucks.
Okay. Is that,
So our concern is that, is encroachment off of the right of way. And we respectfully request that any approval include a condition requiring installation of a clearly defined physical construction barrier or delineation and identifying the actual limits of the 12-foot right of way prior to the start of the construction, maintained throughout construction activities, and preserved upon completion of the project. Because there has been, as I pointed out in my letter to the fire chief, encroachment of approximate 5 feet. We understand that that is not an issue of the board, but it is an issue of the special permit, and we would not like the construction vehicles to continue to encroach on our property. We had once upon a time widened that when we came in with our vehicles to build, and that has been kind of continued to be encroached upon. So, we would like that, a condition of the installation.
so if I'm looking on this plot here, it's got a subject to 20-foot wide easement for deed book 3005, page 107.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing, where's your 12
Do
foot?
you mind if I come up and demonstrate? Access to the property is actually 12 feet.
Oh, that thing, okay.
This is 12 feet. This is Middle Street. This is his frontage. This lot is not an approved lot, and we were told that by the previous planning board. His variance that is in the packet gives
Mhm.
permission to enter through Middle Street. He never did that. He enters through our easement here, his
Mhm.
easement here. So this is not a legal lot, and that's where this is stemming from. Where he can say it was approved a long time ago, there was a different plot plan in the variance that he provided. It was not approved. This is where he's entering. It's a 12-foot right-of-way.
Mhm.
You can see the encroachment here. Here is my tape measure. Here is the plot plan. I would like, and this is non-negotiable for us, I would like this to be blocked off so that they do not continue to erode our property.
That's facing east, right?
That would
That
be
is-
facing.
This is looking
This is this.
this way.
So may I address
Correct.
that
That's
issue?
Correct.
May I address that?
Yes, sir.
So when I originally built the house, there actually was a fence there.
There was.
There was a fence there.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
The fence fell down, was gone, was put there by the property owner. If the property owner would like to put the fence back up, by all means, put the fence
Well,
back up.
that's what we will be doing, but in the meantime, I would like, while they're doing the construction, that to be properly marked off. Noting that, this is the 12-foot right-of-way. This is the cleared area. And that was my concern that I was addressing.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, so this is the house we can't see out here. That's over here, we can't see it. It's on the top there. That's to the south, right? Over here. Yes, this is not your house. Your house is over here.
Yes.
Okay, this is looking.
Correct. That's looking at the farm, the horse
Gotcha.
farm.
Okay. So this is
Yeah,
coming in.
Yeah, that's the driveway, that's all the construction.
Yep,
equipment.
okay.
House is over there.
Right.
So our plan is to actually put up trees there, but I'm concerned with construction, those trees would get instantly destroyed. So that's why, we are suggesting that that be roped off so that there's no construction vehicles parking there, there's no continued encroachment, and
So in the encroachment issue, there actually was an issue. The utility lines, I don't know if over time they sagged, they came down, the lines were getting low.
Mhm.
I got into camping, had a truck camper, and I had to actually veer around a little bit to get around it. If anything was any big, there was a logging truck I had come in, and they had to veer around because of the wires. I have, of course, even before any of this was going in place, I did get in touch with the utility companies, both the Verizon and the cable, which looked with their lines, and they've all been moved up, so there should be no need to veer around anymore for that. So I have no problem putting a piece of string or something down there to make sure that,
I think stakes along here doing something a little more substantial would make a lot more sense. Just to keep you off that, I mean, that's fair. Okay,
So,
Grade stakes, yeah.
yeah, so,
yeah, just so there's a definite visual barrier So that'll stop getting rid of it. All right, yeah, no problem, sir.
I'm not investing a lot of money.
The extra commentary is not necessary, sir. Thank you. Anything else?
I'm just looking through the letters to my residents. Again, you know, our biggest question, our biggest concerns are, you know, the continued encroachment and the 12-foot, hiding a 12-foot high system. And as my husband had pointed out, there's no topography or grading on the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Our property is higher elevation than theirs, so we're sitting already higher than them, and we are going to see them. So again, my concern is the 12-foot high system. His concern was no staging or construction plan. He's a construction supervisor, general contractor.
Got it.
So these are things that he deals with every day.
Mm-hmm.
And there's incomplete data, of course, you know, we'll just wanna make sure that the size of this, it's 62 feet long, 12 feet high. I agree with Kevin that, you know, come to do a site visit. This is a very residential area, it's residential agricultural area. There are cows across the street, you know.
You can barely fit 2 cars down the road at the same time. You don't get much more rural than Craig Street.
And so, you know, the concern of what this does to the residential impacts to me is something worth coming to take a look at.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, you have any other questions? The applicant or the abutter?
Well, one of the questions I have in regards to Chris McGee's comment, the fire chief's comment about the gate, has that issue been resolved? If the gate posts and gate and rail fence are to remain,
No, that's a different application, right?
okay.
Yeah,
That's hard.
that's Hart Street, yeah. Yeah, there was
It was attached.
There was on the, yeah, the letters got mixed in the packet. No, that's a Hart Street, Hart's Memory project. Understood.
Yeah.
Chris?
So again, it's the compatibility.
Nothing right now.
No, only to say that, you know, we have had applicants who put, ground mounted small scale solar in town. So it's not like there's no precedent for people doing this.
Mm-hmm.
It is allowed with a special permit.
Mm-hmm.
So I would hate to come up with anything that says, no, this is not allowed. I don't think that's appropriate. In terms of screening, I tend to agree with you. I think, you know, trees rather than a super tall fence makes more sense, and things that will mature over time that may not be day one, but and then can be managed, you know, so they're not get so tall that they block your access to the sun for the panels. But that's one of the real comments.
On the screening, because what you said about screening on 2 sides, right? I mean, what about?
I didn't mention 2 sides. I would say screening from the abutters,
Between the houses.
the house view.
Okay. Yeah, because the other side, it's that utility building, whatever the building is, it's really, that's there, I don't know what it is,
But I would request the front as well, because this is visible from the street. Remember, this is a front yard system, this is
And you
not.
said you're gonna plant trees along the right of way, so it'll be blocked.
No, we're talking 2 different right of ways.
No, if you put trees there, it'll be blocked, because then you
I-
get behind your building.
I think,
I don't think it's our responsibility to screen somebody's system that they're, you know, coming in to apply for the special permit. I don't think it's, should be on us as a butters
yeah,
to screen
the condition is going to speak to screening between the properties to the point where,
And this is their house, right? So this would be screened.
that's them, I thought they were here.
No, this is
No.
a building.
That's an auxiliary building of
Got
some
it,
sort.
okay.
This is the home.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I
The
was-
building is the front yard, and then our home is the side yard.
okay.
Oh, I see, all right.
Those are our requests, because again, according to the
There's a
bylaws and the
here.
neighborhood compatibility and the site impacts,
That's their question.
in a front yard mount, It should
Okay.
not have residential impacts, and this would have severe residential impacts,
So,
as of this size.
take a closer look here. Got it. Yeah, anything to the north is not gonna affect your solar production anyway.
I was gonna say, the sun is gonna do this.
We don't want any,
The north and the
Can I
west
just
side.
ask the board a question? Is there any, obviously, you know, adding some screen has some financial implications. Is there any idea about a reasonable burden that you can place on him for a screen as far as the financial implications as it relates to the project in any way? Because it costs something to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Just needs to be some.
Well, and that's why I brought up
you know?
Abrevieties instead of mature trees can run $600, $700, $800, $900.
again, I would ask that at least somebody from the board go to the property
Sure,
and
sure.
visit and see what screening is already
Mhm.
in existence and what things are and what the neighborhood looks like and what we're all, you know.
So what I'm asking is reasonable effort to screen from the abutting properties to the north and to the west. Now, I'm not defining what that is, but we've already given suggestions that
Okay.
would be able to screen to the concerned abutter and also screen from Briggs Street in a way that would be
After your review,
I'm sorry?
after your site review, yeah.
Okay, so you'd like us to hold on?
I would like you to go look and see.
Okay, I think we could probably do that. That'll make sense, I guess. What do you guys think?
I can go take a look with you if you want.
Okay.
Can we suggest year-round screening? You know, putting up a pine tree?
Abrevieties are,
Correct, but you
deciduous.
said that you were not gonna specify, so I would appreciate if it was year-round screening, because we used to have year-round screening between us. And, you know, just to have it blocked in the summer is not going to benefit the neighborhood at all.
When did we have year-round screening between us?
You can look at Google imaging, nobody ever knew that there was a house beside our driveway until you did your clearing recently. So we're
That's
just asking.
because you built your house
We're
after
just-
my.
okay,
house.
all right, we're getting off topic. We're going to, we're gonna continue this till the 3rd. So I think between now and then, I think we can go take a look.
Sure.
Yes.
All right. Any other comments before we make a motion to continue? All right, so we make a motion to continue this to,
Can I just add one more?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. I'm happy to have you on my property as well, so that you can see from my,
oh, yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we can set something up.
thank you.
All right, can somebody make a motion to continue this to Wednesday, June 3rd?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll set something up and otherwise we'll see everybody back here on the 3rd. This Russ?
Yeah, you can have
Okay. That was part of the fire chief's.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Good night.
Thank you.
Morning, Mrs. Goulart.
Hi.
Oh. All right, next item on the agenda is the review, discuss, and act on the, oh, that's lined out.
We gotta
Continue. Do we have to
continue on Roderick's.
I'm looking at the wrong one. Here we go. Next item on the agenda is, I had an old agenda sitting in my book here. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't recognize any of these topics. Is the Tony Roderick's 128 Hart Street, map 20, lot 100-1, committed subdivision, and we received a request to continue this to the 3rd.
Yes.
Okay, somebody make a motion to continue the Hart's Memory application review to June 3rd.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. All right, next item on the agenda is to review, discuss, and act on TNA Realty Trust, 0 William Street, map 21, lots 20 and 21, chapter land release request. So in your package, you should have those details. And do we have somebody presenting on this tonight?
No.
No.
Don't normally?
Just, okay. So what is, So do we have to read anything on record here, or,
So you,
Oh, this is the check to
if
sell.
you want, I can read the cover letter and then,
okay,
so we received a notice of intent to sell dated May 6, 2026 from attorney Arthur D. Frank of 209 Bedford Street, Suite 402, Fall River, Massachusetts. Dear Planning Board, please be advised that this office represents Antonio Almeida, trustee of the TNA Realty Trust and the owner of the above described premises. See Exhibit 1, the trustees have received an advantageous offer to purchase the property at a sale price of $1,350,000. Pursuant to General Law 61A, Section 14, trustees give notice of sale to you pursuant to your right of first refusal under the statute. Also included a map of the premises. The proposed use is for a multi-lot subdivision.
okay.
And I know I already asked you, but just for clarification, so this is what came before us before is Almeida Ridge?
Yes, Almeida's
The
Ridge
entire The
subdivision.
entire footprint of Almeida Ridge is included in this?
Yes.
Okay, what's our action here? I mean, this is, we have to vote to recommend this, or we,
You
or is
just
this
have
for
to, recommend to waive the plan.
first right of refusal?
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Okay. I don't have any questions. Of course, there's nobody to ask a question of, with this, item in front of us. Does anybody have any questions or comments on this? Mr. Hall, to you, if you have any questions, we can wait while you review it if you'd like.
The only question, is it the town's responsibility to make sure that there are no encumbrances on this property or liens for approving a transaction?
Unsure?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
this came before the Board of Assessors at our last meeting, and
Can
we
you
voted.
state your name, please?
Oh, Nancy Goulart, assessor at this point.
Okay, perfect.
It came before our meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and the board voted unanimously to recommend to the Board of Selectmen that the town waive its right of refusal, because that's the kind of money you would be looking at to buy that property.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll come out, if all the boards that have to respond make that recommendation, then the selectmen will vote to waive the right, and that will come out of chapter,
Mm-hmm.
and the previous 5 years' taxes will be applied. In other words, the tax break they got for the past 5 years, they're gonna have to pay that money to the town,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes into the Concom fund to acquire properties.
Okay, so based on the fact that you did recommend that, it doesn't sound like there are any tax liabilities or anything to be concerned with.
No, thank you. Ms. Goulart, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Hall?
No.
Okay. Hearing no concerns or questions, can somebody might make a motion to waive the right of refusal? First right of
Notify the
refusal.
Board of Selectmen.
Oh, recommend to.
Right.
It's a recommendation, so we're not actually voting.
Correct.
So I'm gonna make a motion to recommend to the Board of Selectmen to waive the first right of refusal.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. All right. The topic we've all been waiting for.
Does that mean that the project doesn't go away, but somebody else is gonna buy it and maybe keep the name, or come in with a new name?
Yeah.
Now, does it have to go through all the boards again, or has the work that's been done continue to be there, and they would just come in and request anything new?
I don't know what work they would have done that would still be valid at this point.
If they keep identical plans,
Yeah.
then there's nothing, it's just a different owner, same plan,
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
change anything.
Okay.
If they start changing the plan, then to the degree they change it, they probably have to come back to the
It's like
board.
it's like selling a house,
I have to monitor.
selling property. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Well,
Depends what is involved, right?
Correct.
Right, because this is the one that came before us, and then there were recommendations to. We had a bunch of comments for them to. There was like some back and forth. We spoke about the retention ponds and the slopes on those, and running water lines but capping them, and so on and so forth. And then there was an issue with the number of lots due to the lots were tight, so
Yeah,
we recommended something, and okay,
Yeah, that one.
all right,
Exactly.
Aren't they all like that?
yeah. Well, no, so I mean, yeah, this person could come with a whole new design now who buys it, so yeah, it could start all over.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
the statute of limitations on the previous
yeah.
application.
So I guess the
Sorry.
only thing that
When are they
would
gonna start over anyway?
so the only thing that would hold is maybe the perks, like
Could be,
the
because I
wells
think
and
they
test pits they
agreed
did. That
we
would
do
probably.
perk each lot.
How many years is that good for?
I think
3?
perks are good for. Well, yeah, it's some.
Perks were good for life.
No, because the
Each town has a
groundwater.
limit,
I thought it was
and
3.
it's 2 or 3 years,
I think it's
depending.
3 years.
Yeah,
It's
I
some-
think we should ask the board.
I mean, we're not,
Yeah,
Yeah, not my wheelhouse, but
we could Google
yeah,
that.
perks change because
land
I could buy
changes.
the house,
Yeah.
the land behind it, do something that's going to
Yeah.
affect the perk on this land, and so on and so
Or
forth.
am I thinking passing perks? I don't know. For some reason, I don't know.
We're all guessing, I don't know, we should
Yeah.
usually guesswork. So the next item on the agenda is the Stormwater Committee discussion status of 3 separate applications. We don't have anything in our packet specifically for this, so this is all verbal.
Some
Ma'am?
of this was discussed at the Nancy Goulart Stormwater Committee.
Wait a minute.
Changed my hat, my assessors. We're off to no taxes now.
What taxes I?
So we talked about some of this today at the Stormwater Committee meeting. First of all, Dan, I want to thank you on behalf of the committee for representing the planning board on the Stormwater Committee. We enjoyed having you. We welcome Lenny today, and we reorganized the committee. And as usual, there's a lot of competition for chairman and clerk, so it's still Tom's the clerk and I'm the chairman. But anyhow, thank you very much. We enjoyed having you, even if you didn't turn in your test.
That's why I quit.
Just a test.
Okay. I know that we're gonna talk about sometime at a future meeting, the flow chart. But we have a request that we would like you to consider now.
Mm-hmm.
And I will explain why we're making this request now. When a project comes before you, we would just like to notice that, for example, Hart's Memory, we didn't know about that for a while.
When you say we, who's we?
Stormwater Committee.
When we get any application, Carrie blasts it out to God and Country.
Everyone.
Like
gets it.
everybody gets
Hart,
every single application that walks through that door gets blasted to every single department in this town every single time. So what it sounds like is happening is there's something broken in the communication pipeline. So I guess we need to know where you would like these sent, because they're sent to everybody.
well, if she sends it, if it comes to me, I send it to the committee.
Yeah,
But not only Hart's, the 3 houses on Horton Street,
every application,
okay?
every application.
All right, I'm
Yeah.
hearing you. But what I'm telling you is the problem is, and it was, the 3 homes on Horton Street. How I found out about that project, because it's not a route I usually drive by, Concom did an inspection,
Mhm.
and Tom went with Lisa, and I'm not sure if Dave was there. But after Tom visited the site, he got in touch with me and said, hey, do you know that they're building 3 houses up here and they've cleared all this land? And I said, no, I don't have anything. I said, do you think they need a stormwater permit? He said, oh yeah, they've cleared a lot of land. So anyhow, we went up and looked into it.
Yep.
met with the man that's sort of overseeing the project, the
Mhm.
father, house in the middle. And as a result of that, they had cleared, I don't know, how many acres, but rather than tell him, you're gonna stop right now because you don't have stormwater permits, you don't have anything, what we decided to do was, since it really wasn't his fault and we
Mhm.
weren't aware of it, we issued the stormwater permits, 3 of them, and also, told them that we would need engineering services, which, we had a proposal from Weston Sampson,
Mhm.
and he looked at it and he immediately paid for everything, so that was that.
But the problem sounds like it's more of figuring out the proper communication chain, because if you're not getting notification, or anybody on stormwater is getting any kind of notification, then something's broken somewhere. And I don't know. I don't know how to fix that. I mean,
Well,
the question is where you're sending it.
If I can,
Yeah.
so originally,
Yeah.
because according to our zoning bylaws and our subdivision rules and regs, the requirement is to go to certain departments, and stormwater committee is not in that. That said, it's required to go to the Board of Health, and it's always gone to the Board of Health. And it's been mentioned numerous times.
Yeah, that's
Make
where
sure-
that's where it's broken. Yeah.
Make sure that those goes off to the stormwater committee.
No.
I noticed that there was, because there's been some fluctuation in that office and whatnot, I have updated my group list to include the stormwater committee in those emails.
Yeah.
So I can't remember if it was before or after the Horton Street, but I probably shortly thereafter is when I said, even though it's not written in our bylaws and our regulations, I include, because I email it out, and you'll notice it because I'll say, application's been received, public hearing is scheduled for, please review and provide questions, comments, concerns.
And that starts the whole process. She will then take that application, go to Weston and Sampson, provide us a quote for reviewing this, and that kicks off the whole thing. So if you're not getting those messages, we need to
Well, I
figure
think
out how to get those
What
messages to
Terry
you.
has just said, and her following up on this now.
Yeah.
But she hit the nail on the head, where the problem is.
Yeah, I understand. So we have a workaround.
Right,
The
so,
workaround is going to
Right.
the group directly, and that's fine.
Um,
Not great, but it's fine.
can I just make one
Yeah.
more clarification,
Sure.
just about the 3 lots on Horton Street? I just wanna make sure it's really clear that the application that the board acted on was for 2 lots. The 3rd lot was an already established lot, the planning board didn't do anything with that. All they did was work on the subdivision, they acted on the application of a 2-lot subdivision for the one that's in the middle, and I believe the one that's on the left-hand side.
Yeah, because the one on the right nearest the high school.
That was
Right.
already done and
Right,
everything.
and that's the one that triggered the Concom
Mm,
visit because of wetlands. So that's how we got involved.
so,
The thing is, if before you approved that subdivision, if I'd have known about it, I could have come here and said, before you approve that subdivision, he should get a stormwater permit for the entire property. It would have cost $250. However, the action was taken, so forth and so on. By the time we got involved, there were 3 house lots there, 3 times 250, okay? So, we didn't have any options because there were obviously 3 lots. But to look at another situation, the property on Elm Street where the buildings are being built, when that came to us, that was just a chunk of land with the intent to build a building on it. We permitted that entire site, so he doesn't have to come back for stormwater permits. And because of the type of site it is, it's 250 plus, I think it's 5 cents per square foot, because the building commissioner was still here at the time, and I think he's the one that did those calculations. So that whole site, stormwater permit wise, it's all under one permit. He's not gonna have other permit fees. Mr. Roderick came to the meeting today and we talked about Hart's Memory. And Weston and Sampson had advised us that it far exceeds the whole piece far exceeds 35,000 square feet. So we told him today, you need a stormwater permit, one permit, because even though there were two lots, the two lots are not in excess of 35,000 square feet each,
Mhm.
but you look at it as a contiguous piece under the stormwater regs. So anyhow, he said he would take care of it, so, so in his particular case, it didn't cost him extra money, but we couldn't do anything about the other one, but that was just a concern about, you know, try to treat everybody fairly. The reports that we've gotten on that site are very, very good. As far as,
Elm Street, is there Elm Street?
no, Horton Street, as far as the stormwater end of this thing, they've been very responsive,
Mhm.
really, really done a great job. The next one that we talked about was MACS, which is the big solar farm behind Perugia's.
Okay.
So in November, we got a copy of the report that Weston and Sampson submitted, and it talked about concerns about potential dangerous situations where the basins could overtop. That was November. At the December meeting, Jim Reardon attended and went through what he meant, the comments, and explained it. As a result of that, Stormwater Committee voted to ask Weston and Sampson for a proposal to address stormwater issues.
I think I saw that come in today.
Yeah.
We never heard back from MACS on the November report. Well, in March, MACS, so we had gotten the proposal from Weston and Sampson,
Mm-hmm.
submitted it to MACS. Well, March, nothing from December on. March, we get the report saying that they had done thus and so. And in talking to Weston and Sampson, they said at today's meeting, we reviewed what they sent in and we have more questions. So what Stormwater has done, we've just put our proposal on hold, waiting to see if the information you get is going to take care of the concerns about the potential overtopping of those basins. So if,
Well, the
What it-
proposal we got from Weston and Sampson dated today.
well, yeah, that's the new one.
That's the new one.
Yeah, and
Right.
that's the response, that's the review of the final contact that was issued in March
Mm-hmm.
to us. So,
So what information are you expecting to get from us?
well, this whole thing at that solar farm
Mm-hmm.
was triggered because the stormwater calculations on the as-bills do not match your approved plans.
Right.
And because of that, Weston and Sampson issued their report. So, if in fact, the proposal you got today from
Mhm.
Weston and Sampson is approved and is funded by MACS, because the last letter I saw, they don't think.
Why do you have to approve a proposal?
Excuse me?
Why do you have to approve a proposal?
No, it's, you asked Weston and Sampson to do something, so it's your proposal. We've put our stuff on hold. If what?
Well, I can tell you how we do things here, and correct me if I'm wrong. We request a proposal from Western and Sampson. They provide it to us. And
Actually, we don't even care to.
well, what I,
We don't,
yeah.
as a
So
body,
we
as a body, we don't, no, I mean, we don't convene just to do it.
Correct.
we used to convene. We have changed the way we do business. Per flow chart no longer exists. So, so what we did to streamline it, and I don't know if this is where you think this is going, because this has nothing to do with us. Even though it's got Carrie's name on it, it's also got your name for stormwater. So what we do is we say, Carrie, just explain what you do. I'm not in the
So basically,
loop.
we'll get a new application, right, a new application, and when I send out the notification to all the boards saying a public hearing has been scheduled, I send the same thing to Weston and Sampson, and when I send it to them, I request the scope of services so that I can get it done right away. Soon as he gets that to me, I let the applicant and the board members know I've received the scope, I request the funds, and I let them know nothing starts until I get the funds in hand.
And at no point do we meet and vote on it. This
Yeah.
just happens.
Okay.
So that's what I expect this to do as well.
Okay.
Now you've got a proposal,
No,
Send this to the applicant and say, you need to fund this. And until they fund it, nothing happens.
okay, no. What, because they didn't respond, and we had the recommendation, and we had the concerns of Weston and Sampson, Weston and Sampson put together the proposal. We sent it to MACS, and that finally got them to respond
I got you.
in
Okay.
March. So, what Jim Reardon told us today was that he had prepared another proposal for you. And what I said to Jim Reardon was, well, when the guy we're dealing with, Glenn Golden, he wrote a letter, or another engineer, the guy that kept talking about pools or something like that, or whatever. I said to Jim Reardon, because the planning board has your proposal that you're talking about right now, that's gonna go out. If it's funded by MACS, and the work that you do, Weston and Sampson, answers the questions, then we don't have to pursue anything. We'll just, the Weston and Sampson proposal for stormwater work is just sitting on the table because the initial problem that we were trying to get answers to was the as-bills have to match the plans that were approved. If that all works, and Weston and Sampson says, we've looked at it and everything is okay, we don't have anything to do. If they say, still not a problem, this is a stormwater thing, then we'll just get back to them and say, you've got the proposal, we need the funding for it. And I think that's, I'm gonna say 23,000.
It's 7,000. It's seven.
So anyhow,
I see
right
$7,000.
now-
7?
oh, yours is 7, the one we got is
There's
like,
another one.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So anyhow, so maybe we'll all benefit from the work that is in the proposal that you got today.
Today.
Right, but how is this through the planning board?
Because that's an
Be-
updated
Because
proposal?
because this is confirmation of as-built.
Correct,
So this has to come from you to the applicant.
correct,
Okay, all right, so that sounds like that's what's happening with this.
yeah.
Got it.
So basically, the hope is they can correct the stormwater numbers, for lack of a better term, through the as-built, right?
And
And
then
if
it can
everything works
stop
and
there.
everything is okay, then fine, great.
And
However,
if not,
if
it
it
would
comes
continue to the
back,
second proposal.
it would have to go back.
Okay,
So,
got it. Understood now. Takes me a while sometimes.
It's very convoluted.
Got it, all right. Okay, that's that one. Sounds like Carrie's on it.
Hart's memory, we were talking about that today, and Jim Reardon said there was a separate report filed for stormwater, and it was prepared by, I think, the engineers for the project.
Yes,
Can we get a copy of that?
I emailed it. I emailed it to you.
I can give you a hard
But
copy.
you'd like a hard copy, we'd have to bring one here because it's enormous.
I have 2 on file, so I can.
Yeah, in that, I responded to your email. I don't know if you saw my response.
Yeah, I went through all, the one with the colors.
No, the email, you said, hey, I'd like to get this stuff. And I responded with a bunch of links in the email to their application, their original application, their updated application, and a bunch of hyperlinks that had every single thing about the project. I just took Carrie's email that had all the attachments for the applicant, including the stormwater report, and you can click on it and download it.
Okay, the only one that I'm interested in is stormwater,
Yeah.
and I wasn't aware there was a separate report until Jim Reardon mentioned it today.
So
It's not
it's
a,
not a separate report, the stormwater report?
it's
In Jim's?
part of the packet. It's not Jim's, it's the applicant's
Oh, the
document.
applicant, my
It's,
apologies.
they're engineers.
Their engineer
I'm sorry.
provided an attachment.
Yeah.
Okay,
uh,
I'm
separate.
sorry, I thought you meant Weston Sampson provided a
No.
separate.
No.
Okay.
He's the one who told us that there was this report, and I
Yeah,
said, that's
it's-
not familiar to me.
It's in the application. Like when they initially submitted their application, it is a subsection of the entire application
Okay,
But I do have 2 extra hard copies in my office
of their application.
of the stormwater report.
oh, I don't
So
want
I
the
can
whole
look at it.
application, I mean,
Yeah,
my computer's old, it dies.
yeah.
It sees plans and it goes. All right, what do we got? So MACS, 0 Elm Street. Franklin, okay, 0 Elm Street, so that is the Eman Building. So, where we are on that is, from what I can determine in looking at the original building, building 1, when the paperwork came in on that, and you asked for engineering services from Weston and Sampson.
Hold on.
Pardon. Continue. I gotta finish coughing. Oh, gosh, okay.
So,
Wrong tube. Sorry about that.
when the first project was presented, there was misinformation. He was told he didn't need a stormwater permit, da-da-da-da-da. And I checked with Weston and Sampson, and they said absolutely, they've disturbed more than an acre, which is the federal limit. They've even gone over the federal limit. So anyhow, we informed Mr. Eman he needed a stormwater permit. That's
Okay.
the one I talked about, 250 plus, I think it's 5 cents a square foot or something, whatever.
Okay.
Took care of issuing that. We talked about getting stormwater report information, and he came to the meeting very loud, very objectioned and everything else, because he said Weston and Sampson was gonna do the same work and bill him twice, and it was a mess. I said, they don't do that. From what I could determine, and what Weston and Sampson was able to give the stormwater committee on that first building, was that in the proposal that was submitted to the planning board for that project, there was enough, I'll call it required information about stormwater, that Weston and Sampson didn't have to do a separate proposal to get the stormwater committee the information it needed relative to the building site, the first one.
Okay.
So now they're building the second building, and the issue came up. I said, no, they don't need a stormwater permit. We permitted the entire site, period. But Concom has got to look at it. Stormwater's got to know about stormwater controls and all that usual stuff.
Yep.
So, when I talked to Jim Reardon, I said to him, are you gonna be able to give me stormwater information based on the proposal that you gave to the planning board? He said, no, that's not in there. So we got a proposal, it was 10,000 and change.
300.
10,300, thank you. And sent it to Mr. Even, and he sees no reason to do it. He doesn't want to do it. He says his engineering reports are all that are needed. We do get weekly reports because Concom requires them.
Mm-hmm.
We did have runoff at the first site, which, when it was brought to their attention, they took care of. I guess when proposals are requested by the planning board, maybe we gotta make sure that stormwater requirements are in there, so it's one report, and when they do the work.
Again, I go back to,
everybody
I
gets
gotta cut you off here, because I go back to, but you're notified these applications are happening.
All right, but we don't get involved with your proposal. What I'm saying to you is,
But if you know a project is happening, I mean, I don't know how more, it's like trying to inform people that there's a public hearing. I don't know how to do it. We go to all these different media outlets or media versions, you know, and we can't seem to get people to come to these meetings. Just like this, I don't know how to notify people more than just email it to them. I don't know what else we could possibly do.
So, just to assure you, because I think way back when we were starting with all of this stuff, we were in the very, very beginning, and probably
I mean, that's
before
the
these.
purpose of a PAC meeting, right?
Yes, at the very beginning.
stormwater is not allowed to
It's not.
attend that, and has never been represented on that.
I don't know why you think you're not allowed to attend that. I really don't
So-
know.
Because the person, not the TA, the person who ran those meetings,
You are invited to every PAC meeting.
never.
Why not?
Not by Jim, when
Jim wouldn't.
Jim doesn't work here anymore.
he doesn't work.
So,
If I can just, hold on.
please, I'm going to say
Okay.
something I'm not supposed to say on camera.
Exactly,
Go.
yeah, so
You already
just,
did. It's too late.
first and foremost, before we go down that road,
Yeah.
the stormwater part in the very beginning, when we brought Weston and Sampson on, it was realized that stormwater wasn't being reviewed. When that was realized, it is now standard. When I ask for a scope of services, Jim knows stormwater's involved on the planning board side and on the Concom side.
And if it's not happening, we need to change the contract or something.
Right,
make it more
but
obvious.
it's, Jim and I, we had a discussion and say, you know, how did we miss that? And he's like, well, you didn't request it, and I was like, well, I thought it was part of it. Went back and forth for a little bit, so now he knows whenever I ask for a scope of services, stormwater standard on every single thing, because I also reminded him that under the rules and regulations, the issuing authority is either the Concom or the planning board. So whenever a request for a proposal is requested, stormwater's already included in there, in everything. I know in the very, very beginning, it wasn't like that because it wasn't realized, but since that time, it's standard across the board.
And for
any-
the
Yeah,
first
for,
building one, they did do it because they didn't have to do another proposal for us.
okay,
And so whatever Eamon paid to have you do the work, have Weston and Sampson do the work for planning included stormwater. However, with the second building, I specifically said to Jim Reardon, is there enough information in that proposal to cover stormwater? He said no, and he developed the second proposal, which has upset Mr. Eamon. And the messages went back and forth, it wasn't necessary, it wasn't needed, it's absolutely needed, and we're at the point that we've gotta do something because there needs to be a stormwater component. Now, obviously, going forward with what Kerry just said,
yeah, in
it
this,
should have been in there.
well, this, you know, I'm looking at the different applications. That's the most recent one, Heart's Memory. But in the back of it, there's the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook Standard Reviews. That's in here. I don't know if that's adequate. I don't know if that's what he considers stormwater review. Maybe that needs to be better defined. Because if this isn't adequate, then we need to define it better.
Well, there's a timing issue here, right? When you said he does it as a matter of course now all the time, we've made that clear. That was
Does this do
six
that?
to 8 months ago that began?
I wanna say,
More than that?
maybe, I'd have to go back and look.
Is this what we're considering a stormwater review? Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook Standard Reviews, Standard 1, Standard 2, Standard 3,
I believe so.
4. I mean, this is Standard
So
5,
this is
Standard
what-
6,
This is
7,
what changed to
8,
include this.
9,
Yes.
10.
But prior to this, he wasn't including this, and that changed.
Okay.
When was the second building for Eman Brothers as a project come before this? In other words, did it just simply precede the change that we made, and therefore that's why it didn't happen?
Home Street, there it is. Facility 2. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Hang
I'm
on.
trying to remember now.
It may have just been a timing thing. It's like we've changed this, we changed it a while ago. This just preceded it.
See, it's funny because I'm looking at Building 2 for Iman, and it's got the same 10 standards in the back of the report.
Oh.
There it is.
And, as I said, when the first building was done,
So what's the additional $10,000
I didn't
for?
need a
It's here.
separate proposal, but when I asked for the second building, he said, no, it's not in there, and he came up with another proposal.
I thought the $10,000 proposal was for monitoring,
Well, that's part of it,
because that's not this. This is not monitoring.
okay.
Well, the only thing he's doing, so it sounds like we need to talk about what these reviews need to entail, because he's doing what Kerry said to do, but if that's not adequate, then that's what needs to change. Because even when this is building number 2, this is that building 2? This is facility 2. This is their
May of last year.
May of last year, facility number 2, and there is a full. This is the applicant's stormwater runoff review. No, this is the building number 2, and it's got that section in there, the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook Review with the 10 standards. So if I go to facility number 1, oh, not a whole lot of anything there. Wonder why I don't have it there. So if what they're putting in this report is not adequate for what you need, then that's what needs to change. Because the only thing he's doing is checking the 10 standards out of the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook. Doesn't sound like that's what you're looking for.
Which, in effect, you can't just go by that simply because if the community has stricter standards,
Mm-hmm.
they either have to be waived or they have to be followed.
Then how do we get that in the normal course of action? How's that work?
Well, whenever a project has come before us the first time, I usually
Mhm.
say, you are aware, as a member, I've been at some other hearings, I said, you are aware the town has its own bylaw and regulations, and in some areas it's a little stricter. Yeah, we've looked at
Mhm.
that, okay?
Okay.
But the other thing we gotta remember, this was another glitch. Building 1, when that was proposed, we had a stormwater agent who was a PE, and that stormwater agent made site visits and inspections.
So that's what we need Weston
And
Sampson to
he
do now.
left before the
Okay.
project
So that-
ended.
so that's the difference.
So up to a point, just like MACS,
Mhm.
up to a point, we had somebody doing visits and inspections on behalf of the town to make sure what was happening is what was supposed to happen. So
So that's the difference.
that was another problem. So with the building 2,
Mhm.
because there's nobody from the town that can do that,
Okay.
I think the combination of us having a stormwater agent and what you had in the first proposal
Mhm.
took care of the first building. So when I checked with Jim Reardon about the second building, because we need somebody to do what Todd did, which is also what created the
Right,
problem.
but that
with
none
MACS
of that was in the scope of what he was told to do. That's
For
why.
building 2.
For anything.
Well, you see, it didn't have to be in building 1 because he knew what we had, what had been done.
No, I know, but doing the PE work and all of that you're referring to was never in any of his scope of services. That's why he came up with the new bill. Okay, that makes sense.
So I think with building 1, if we took what Todd did for the town
Mm-hmm.
and put it together with what Weston Sampson did for the planning board, we ended up with enough information to take care of stormwater needs.
But with building 2, he was missing the PE part, so
Um,
they were have to
So
fund
that's
it
why we
separately.
talked about site visits and inspections.
Got it.
And the reason why we're all dealing with MACS is when we had a stormwater agent, he was up there, he was doing inspections. When he left, and when we got Weston and Sampson, I told them, I have no idea what happened after he left. And they were saying, oh, you gotta go back. I said, no, we're not going back. I know what he did, and what he did was what needed to be done. I don't know what's happened since then. And that's why, when it
Okay.
came down to the nitty-gritty, we're trying to, one of the things that Todd kept saying to them was, the numbers don't come out. And I
So
don't
it's-
know that kind of math.
So it sounds like to work towards a solution, we need to figure out how that's supposed to be scoped better. Because now, if we need to outsource the PE work, which is the site visits and inspections, that needs to be part of the application.
Right.
And it's not,
Now, I can tell you,
which is gonna require a conversation with Western and
But-
Sampson about how we can
Well,
do that.
the other issue is through the 53G account, when we establish the 53G account when an application comes in,
Mm-hmm,
that's for project review fees.
yeah.
The monitoring, I don't think would be covered under that, because
No.
that would be a monetary fee.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have to be a separate 53G account
Right.
established just for that.
Well,
and
then-
that's what Weston and Sampson recommended
And
we
that's,
do.
that's what needs to happen then,
Mm.
because part of, letting applicants know what they need to do in their process is knowing things like this. This is actually what it costs to make a project.
Mhm.
Okay,
I
this
agree.
is a review process, this is the, site,
Monitoring.
monitoring site visit and inspection process, this is the building permit process, all of that, try to make it as clear as possible.
One package,
One-
this is what it's gonna cost you.
Just,
That is ideally what we'd like to get to.
but also know that it's standard in every single one of our decisions that we do. There's one section in there with standard language saying that the applicant bears the cost of all monitoring inspections
Right, I know,
and
but,
whatnot in there,
and-
so
and-
that would trigger, once they get that
mhm,
permit
Yep.
or findings and decisions and they're ready to go,
mhm,
then when they go for the building inspector, go to the building inspector for the building permit, the building inspector is gonna be like, where's your monitoring, is your monitoring in place?
yep, I agree, but we're trying to
not quite there yet.
front load all of that
This
as
is
much as we
different,
can.
yeah.
We're trying to front load everything as much as we can, and this makes sense to have the town establish another 53G account for monitoring.
For monitoring.
That's how they submitted
Yeah.
the proposal, and Jim recommended that. He says, because I said, can you
Yeah.
amend the planning board proposal? And he says, no, we're gonna keep these separate. So I did speak to
Yeah.
the town accountant, and if when that is funded, it will be in it. Now, the situation with Horton Street, even though we got into the game late,
Mm-hmm.
when we gave him the proposal, he looked it all over, and we said there will be site visits, there will be monitoring, yada, 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 by the engineering firm, other than town officials may turn up at any time, but the engineers will be looking at this. And he had no problem with it. That money was set aside, that was $9,810 for those, total for those lots.
Yep.
So, the separate accounts, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we know about that.
Okay.
But I think we've had some good discussion. We understand how things have happened and what we're trying to work
Okay,
on
so
and
this
make it work out.
circles back to the subject of the PAC meeting. Why is there nobody from the Stormwater Committee represented in the PAC?
So I will say, in the very beginning, when this was created, PAC was created, it was determined that it was gonna be I don't know how to explain it, the individual, the people on the front lines when an application comes in. So that was determined, it was the planning board and zoning board, conservation, and the building department. Occasionally, Tom Ferry would be called in as a highway, but he would also be there just in case for stormwater or whatnot.
Nobody from Board of Health?
And yes, and someone from the Board of Health. At one point it was Todd, then it was Elizabeth. I think it went straight to Elizabeth, and so that's been the creation. And the reason why it wasn't, it didn't extend further out was because it was all preliminary information that we're talking to these applicants. That said, every single time that person was told, don't forget, we have stormwater, we have a local stormwater bylaw. If you're gonna clear more than 35,000 square feet, you're gonna be required. And a lot of times if they left with copies, I would provide a copy of the stormwater rules and regs and the bylaws. So there was representation there saying, you gotta comply with stormwater, and we have the local that you have to abide to as well. Since that time, and I will say, we determined not to have any more PAC meetings right now until the building commissioner is on full time, and we have someone, because quite frankly, if you don't have the building commissioner there, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
However, we did have a couple meetings right before that, and Tom Ferry has been attending, and he's been there. So,
Mm-hmm.
there's
Not as a stormwater.
just,
Well,
well, I mean, that's part of the reason why we've asked him to be there, not only, I mean, because we never intended Tom Ferry to be there for every single meeting there to represent the highway department.
I guess-
It's just like if we had a point, but
The point of the
Tom
meeting,
Ferry's been
the
coming.
point of the meeting is for applicants, or not even applicants, potential applicants,
Right,
to show up and to talk about their project and ask how they should proceed. So these aren't applications.
no,
So, and they may never be applications.
9 times out of 10, they're not.
So, but what it does do is it gives you some visibility of things that are coming down the road.
Right.
So,
It is open to the public.
and it's open to the public, so
Yes.
anybody can walk in.
You can't talk, you can't participate, but you can listen.
You can listen, yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody's invited.
I'll give you the straight answer to your question, why wasn't stormwater there?
As long as you don't mention any names.
I was told when that committee was formed.
Yep.
By the town administrator at the time, that he was told by a member of that committee that if I showed up at that meeting, he would quit.
Okay, well,
neither is there.
I guess we don't have to worry about it,
Right.
Because,
They're not meeting and he's gone.
well, I mean, the point is that we're trying to improve communication lines between the departments.
Absolutely.
We and like issues with communication between departments is not unique to this building. Happens everywhere. I've got somebody who sits next door from me, and we don't talk at work. So I mean, it's not uncommon for people to sit next to each other and not realize we're not communicating. So it's not unique to any organization. So if there's an opportunity for better communication, I don't see why we wouldn't do it.
I think
And
that
there's no reason to not do that.
the common link was when we had a very qualified, overqualified stormwater agent who
And you-
attended those meetings. He was the link that kept it together.
Right, but that's not an option anymore.
Right.
And so, unless we're going to pay somebody from Weston and Sampson to sit at a PAC meeting, which we're probably not going to do, I think best situation is either Mr. Ferry becomes that connection, or another representative from the Stormwater Committee should be present. Just to, I mean, what I don't want to see happening, because it's a preliminary chat, we don't want there to be all of a sudden project development happening. It's supposed to be information and nothing more.
Informational only.
The, one of the members on the stormwater committee is the building commissioner, and he stopped attending meetings. But when we had somebody filling in, he attended our meetings, and he was very good.
Okay, so it sounds like whenever
So-
these things kick back up again, I don't see why there can't be some representation there for
The,
informational purposes.
the other thing I wanted to mention to you, we just found out, last week, when we had a big meeting about the elementary school site and all that. I was advised that the county commissioners issued an order that any ARPA funds that were granted must be spent by the 1st of September. We have had an ongoing project going back to, the contract was issued, I think, when Mike was here, Mike Mullen, with Weston and Sampson. And there has been a person working on revising the stormwater bylaw and regs. I've sent them out, I have got no response from anybody. I sent them out again. I talked to the town administrator and said, with that deadline, the Board of Health has got to let me know, are they on board or not? The Board of Health has had nothing to do with the Stormwater Committee, again, just about the time that we lost our stormwater agent.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been kind of operating on our own. There was a lot of friction, there was interference, even though they didn't want to.
So what's actually needed? You're saying Weston and Sampson
So-
put something together, and you need somebody to review
All the
it.
boards, this thing is 33 pages long.
Yep.
All I need to know is have the boards get back to me and say, hey, we've looked at what she's proposing. Yeah, that's okay, or no, this needs to be changed. The one thing that's gonna have to be done before this goes to a town meeting, because I don't wanna go to a public hearing in a town meeting and have the Board of Health get up and say, hey, we don't agree with this. But my local proposal will be, when we get the engineering work done
Mm-hmm.
and pay them, so we don't lose that ARPA money.
What? So it has to be done by
There's got
September
to
1st?
be- No, we gotta pay it
To
by
spend
then.
the money.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, I think people who are familiar with town bylaws and regs, it's gonna be a quick read. I mean, she didn't make major changes. She moved some stuff around and she made citations about whether it's the stormwater handbook or the whatever. After we get a response from the town boards,
Mm-hmm.
and I can say to her, Jarvis, this is what they want changed, or this, oh, we're good to go. We can pay this off, make that deadline, not lose that money. But then there's gonna have to be work done locally, because the decision is gonna have to be made. Is the Board of Health still going to have the umbrella and stormwater as a standalone?
I have no.
It doesn't work.
Who makes that decision?
Board of Selectmen will have to make the decision. I discussed this when we were having problems.
Mm-hmm.
My recommendation back then was take the Stormwater Committee away from Board of Health, so it's no longer a subcommittee. Appoint it as a standing committee like the Concom, and it's under the Board of Selectmen. Easiest way to do it. Again, it was 2018,
Do we have any, any,
When the
any,
Board of
go ahead.
requested in writing
Yep.
by Tom Pius signing it, chairman, that they create the stormwater committee because there was so much work involved, the Board of Health couldn't deal with it all. That's how we came about, and it was made a subcommittee of the Board of Health. We had split the two boards, Selectmen and Board of Health, and Tom Pius was the chairman of that Board of Health. And I came across the letter the other day when he asked the Board of Selectmen to create the committee, and it even listed names, but then we said, forget the names, put the titles in, because the names will change of the people,
Mhm.
7 people, who are gonna represent, that all worked, but that's because, again, we had the connection with the Board of Health. But that has got to get resolved. I can't imagine going to a town meeting and not having the support of the Board of Health. But they can be separate. The other thing too is we gotta change this bylaw because applicants have to ask for that waiver about underground. We haven't done that well, Richard Hageman was on the board my first year. We have not done it. So we need to change that locally, that, everything has to be underground. No, get that out of there. That doesn't work. So those are local changes, but my main concern is now that the boards take a look at what Jerry Schwartz has put together and just say, need some work here, or this looks okay, or we don't have any comments. The main thing is, I can say to her, finish this up, your work is done, and we can pay you off so we don't lose the money. We'll
Okay.
continue to work on the bylaw and the regs locally, so that we can take it to a public hearing and eventually to a town meeting.
Okay,
But
got it.
a lot of stuff to read.
Okay. That's it?
So that's why I thank you first. Didn't want to forget that.
So
Yeah.
do we have these, I remember seeing an email a long time ago about these regs. It was like last fall.
I've sent it out more than once.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, they were coming in stages, is that correct?
No, it's the whole package.
The whole package, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought the last time I saw it was
And
the
it's in
first
colors.
stage.
It's
Okay.
all in colors.
Are there pictures?
No pictures.
That's
No
too bad.
diagrams.
It's a lot of text. It's a
No
lot of
maps.
text.
I don't recall receiving it multiple times.
Okay. If I can send it out again, I will send it out again and just say, hey, we got this deadline, which, that surprised me, because I think we had to commit by September, commit the funds and spend it by December, but, I was told last week, you better spend it on it before September the 1st, and they wouldn't allow encumbrances, so I said, I told Therese, I says, I'll give it one more shot.
Yeah.
So, we don't, now, if there's no more work for her to do, or the work that hasn't been billed doesn't use it all up, that's fine. But as long as there's work to be done, I don't wanna lose that money, because the grant was $45,000 to do all this work, so, and we had to fight to get it, so I hate to lose it.
I know I've seen it, but it was a while ago, I thought.
I think it was a while ago. I think it's still on my to-do list or waiting to be completed, so.
Yeah, I'm all the way back to like October and I don't see it. Last
Yeah, I
year.
don't know,
I can go, but if you resend it to Nancy, I'll make sure they get it.
yeah, her original email will have a date.
Who sent it? Did it come from, it came from you, right?
It came from me, but the whole package that was Jurice, Jaurice, Schwartz, Schwartz.
Okay.
I think she works out of the Reading office.
I think so.
Okay. Well, all right, we'll get our hands on it.
Yeah, I think I covered everything.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so, thank you very much. Good discussion, and it sounds like we got some work to do on, I wanna talk to Weston and Sampson to see what we can do for, trying to front load as much of that as we can to communicate to the applicants, clearer what their requirements are, cause I don't want words getting lost in a decision and it just becomes a bunch of mumbo jumbo.
Right.
stormwater regs review, and I guess, let's see what happens there. Okay, so next time on the agenda, reports. First one is from Serped. I don't have any updates since we last met. We didn't have a meeting. We have one coming up here, so I don't have anything specifically. For Stormwater Committee, I think,
Nancy covered most of
we
it.
just read
I
the whole thing.
just want to add one thing that Nancy didn't mention.
Wow, you forgot something. Nancy.
Taunton River Watershed Alliance Day,
I was just gonna mention that, go ahead.
August 1st. What is the date? I thought it was 1 to 3 p.m. at Dighton Rock Park.
Let me see, I think I put this in. I was gonna ask if you guys get invited, then I thought, maybe I shouldn't ask them if they got invited, because if they didn't get
It'd
invited.
be awkward.
And they have a booth, an informational booth for Dighton,
Okay.
if anyone is available. I thought I had the
They're
date.
having some kind of an event at the Dighton Rock Park, as Lenny just mentioned. And they contacted me to find out who would be on certain committees, boards. They had my name for
August
stormwater.
9th.
August 9th.
August 9th.
And so I said, get in touch with, I said, somebody will be there. I said, that's kind of a ways out for me to know the schedule, but, yeah, it's a Sunday. I said, somebody will be there from Stormwater. I said, get in touch with Jim Digits from Concom, because I would think something along those lines would be beneficial. I didn't mention any other boards or committees, but I'm not sure exactly what we're supposed to be doing. Concom and Stormwater, it's Clean Water Act or Wetlands Protection Act, but other than that, I'm not really sure. But I can check, and if there's other boards that she would like to invite, I'll just pass it on to Carrie.
Yeah, so this is where I was confused. So now, if I found it,
Okay.
there's Jerice Schwartz emails from Woodson and Sampson Incorporated. This is back from September 2025. It was a dry weather outfall.
That was the testing.
It was a draft. Oh, this was actually a testing report.
Yeah.
Stormwater review. Never mind. This is not the actual document itself.
Part of that $45,000, the recommendation was that we had to do wet and dry water monitoring, wet and dry weather monitoring. They went out and actually inspected outfalls, and that report talks about, I think 1 or 2 needed some repairs or something. They talked about additional mapping for the part of the town that has the public sewer system. So part of that 45 is part of we paid for the testing. As a matter of fact, I've got to talk to Tommy. We've got $15,000 in the current budget to see if we're going to be doing that. Because if we are, we need to get it scheduled and we need to encumber the money to pay for it.
I found it. It's a stormwater regulatory review memo.
When'd you get that?
September 22nd, 2025.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would have been the first time.
There was a second one?
Yeah, but after I got the word last week that they're gonna lower the boom on us, I mentioned it today.
So is this the version we should be reviewing, or is there a
Oh,
second?
yeah, there's only one. She
Okay,
only submitted
that's-
it once.
Okay,
She was gonna come to some,
I'm going
she
to
was
forward
gonna
it back
zoom
to you.
into some stormwater meetings, but I told her, we're not ready to do that, because I don't have feedback. And since then, I was in touch with her, tell her, we're gonna have to get, your work has to be done, and we gotta get you paid before September 1st.
Gotcha, okay. I found it, and I'm gonna forward it back to everybody here,
Thank you.
especially Jill, I don't want her to miss it. So I got to you, Dan, you want it to your town email, or that all?
That's fine.
Okay. I think that's everybody. Okay. Mark that baby as unread. Good lord. All right, fine. All right, thank you. Next item is the pact, which I heard you haven't had meetings.
No, we have not had meetings,
Okay.
because we're waiting for our new building commissioner. That said, we did this past Monday have, various different departments were requested to attend a meeting for a presentation of the Dayton Elementary School.
Okay.
And their task is to pretty much come up with they're looking at their options of building a new school versus renovating the one that they have now. So they were just doing like a preliminary presentation and asking some questions of, things that might be highlighted, like, the wetlands issue,
Mhm.
or, from the conservation, stormwater. Nancy spoke on stormwater, the requirement of that. Without knowing really what they're doing, I said there's not sure which way, if you do a modification, it's different from building a new school, so you really gotta make that determination first. And of course, if you're doing a new school, it's gonna be at least a site plan review,
Mm-hmm.
at least. And then, again, not knowing much more that, I can't tell them, well, if you're gonna have setback requirements, can't meet that, you'll have to go to zoning, but
Mm-hmm.
we really didn't get that far, but that's gonna be something to take
Okay.
as well.
Their biggest concern was, does anybody know where the septic system was?
Okay.
Obviously, there were engineering plans back in 1953 when they built that.
They're probably in the safe over here,
Well, my guess is they could have burned up with the junior high school.
possibly.
Yeah.
They abandoned the
Yeah, so
septic.
that's, yeah.
They
how-
did, but I think they still wanna know where it is.
Sure.
I mean, they need
It
to
could
know when they
collapse.
start digging, right?
Yeah,
So,
probably concerned about structural integrity.
I serve on the building committee. Renovating is not a lot cheaper than some of the proposals. We're down to basically 4. And on the 28th, we'll narrow it down even more.
I think when the group was talking to us, they said that, I think they had like 6 or 8 options that they
Yes.
were going through, and then I think by the time that they were gonna approach us again, they were gonna come back with 2 options.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're a ways out, I think. I think we're a ways out before they make that
I
determination.
think they're gonna really have to really look at a combination.
Mm.
I mean, when you look at what we have in our backyard, and that original building is over 100 years old,
Mm.
and it's still in service, yes, they did renovations, they brought it up to code.
Yeah,
As I say, they're gonna have to look at a combination.
yeah,
It's over $100 million for a remodel.
I'm surprised. Doesn't surprise me at all.
And the low new is 114, and the more expensive one was 120.
Anything else?
No.
All right.
Well done.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes for May 6, 2026. Can somebody please make a motion for that approval?
So approved,
So moved.
so moved.
Second. Go ahead.
Motion made, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Mrs. Easterday, is there any other correspondence
No.
this time? Any public input? There was somebody on there earlier, but they dropped off.
Culture Festival this weekend.
What is?
Culture Festival.
Couch Festival, that's right. Couch
This weekend
Festival this
already?
weekend, starts on Friday.
Memorial Day weekend.
Wow.
We'll be giving out good stuff from the stormwater.
No, it's next weekend. It's a
No,
weekend
it's next
after.
weekend.
What's the
Yeah.
next weekend?
Yeah.
It's a week from Friday.
Yeah, June,
Week from Friday.
like May 30th.
Right, because I was gonna say, why don't I see equipment?
Yeah, it's that's right. Yeah, it's next weekend.
I saw the sign with you today.
Yeah, so the cows up there. Yep, don't miss the Couch Up Festival coming up. Pick up your cow chips. This time, somebody please make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made, any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, Cable.